fact is that you and I are sitting here today because this will be your last week of employment. This is not an assessment of your productivity. You gotta try not to take this personally.
Well, I just had a bad night.
I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. He's going to beat President Putin. President Zelensky.
One thing that we do have to underline here, just so viewers can follow what's going on behind the scenes, is the Biden campaign and many Democratic officials do believe that Barack Obama is quietly working behind the scenes to orchestrate this.
Just figured I'd start this video out with a nice little compilation of things that were said or things that have been said here recently. And of course, I think it's time we have a serious conversation about Joe. Which this serious conversation about Joe has obviously been had a lot on this channel, especially the past few weeks. But the thing is this right here. As a guy who's obviously going to be voting for his opponent, I just can't see how the world people can say to themselves, you know what, we're just going to simply swap him out or simply replace him, even though that's not how things actually work. But of course, at the end of the day, the more and more you look into the situation and the scenario, the more and more you realize that it's probably impossible to do. However, there will be an attempted coup, and I will be talking about that over the course of this video here. Of course, the attempted coup is obviously going on. However, I think that the thing that sticks out the most, especially from last night's big boy press conference, was this moment here.
About Vice President Harris's ability to beat Donald Trump if she were at the top of the ticket.
Look, I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she's not qualified to be president. So let's start there.
This situation was obviously off to a bad start, especially given the fact that earlier at the NATO summit, you guys saw that he called Zelensky Putin. And of course, there's been this op-ed that was taken out by George Clooney. And then you've got Dave Portnoy, not a conservative, by the way, very much a Biden voter, going after George Clooney over the notion that they have betrayed Joe Biden, which I find kind of funny that these people are saying this. I also find it funny that there's a faction defending him. But I did say that there would be a faction defending him. I'm going to link this video right here in the description box from Dinesh D'Souza, roughly 2 minutes and 45 seconds. I hope you guys give it a shot. I think he made a very good point in his video about the overall rift itself. I am going to stay true to what I've been saying, that they probably will not be able to replace him, and if they do, it will be with heels up Harris. However, that conversation is another conversation that we will have at a later date. Ben Shapiro, the Daily Wire, they did a 3-part series called Scamala where they actually detailed that woman's issues. But I think the online world itself already knew that Kamala had some issues, hence the reason why it is her approval rating and her likability rating, which is lower than both Joe Biden and Donald Trump at this moment in time. I think people already know this, and people obviously will not be, motivated to vote for her. But I do want to go ahead and preview that little video in the future with this here. Before we get to this topic of Joe and what will probably happen and Clooney and Joe Scarborough and all that type of stuff there, I do want to go ahead and give you guys a bit of a preview. Won't take but 2 seconds. And the preview is this here. This weekend, there's going to be the VP video. I'm going to probably have out on Saturday because I'm expecting that announcement to come this weekend. That right there being Trump's VP. And of course, there's going to be a video coming out on Sunday, which is going to be kind of a special video that I'm going to be releasing. So make sure you guys stick around for that. But back to the topic at hand. So one of the things about this current administration is that they love to rely on polls. And recently, polls have just gotten released from Marist. And of course, the other poll that got released yesterday came from another one of those institutions that the mainstream media loves to trot out there. And of course, it shows that Harris is actually up. The poll was a Reuters poll. Neither of these polling companies have been known to be accurate, especially given the fact that Trump had beat her consistently in every poll up until recently, that right there being the past couple of days. That right there alone should tell you that these polls are obviously not, realistic looking at all. These are what you call bounce polls. These are polls that are called not just bounce polls, but they are designed to make a bounce look actually plausible after the DNC, which is not until August. So obviously this polling data is once again going to shift. But one thing has always been consistent is that Trump polls best against everybody not named Biden, which is one of the reasons why it is that Biden is probably still the nominee. This particular administration relies heavily on data and polling data, even though the polling data is flawed and inaccurate, and Trump has been up on Biden more so. Recently, it might make people think that maybe they're trying to lull conservatives into a false sense of security. Either way, you need to get out there and vote your butt off, regardless, because we have a golden opportunity to get the Senate here and a massive majority in the Senate to go along with Congress and former President Trump, who'll be on a one-term proposition to obviously sign some reform. So I say it doesn't matter what the polls say. Get out there and vote your butt off regardless. I don't care if Trump's up by 20 points. Get out there and vote your damn ass off. I don't care if it's down by 20 points. Vote your ass off. It doesn't matter. You need to pretend like it's you need to pretend like you're down 28-3 in Super Bowl 52 between the Patriots and the Falcons. I'm just simply saying you need to pretend like that's the case. Calling Vice President Harris Vice President Trump, and of course people made a lot of memes about it, is obviously the thing that has got people talking the most about what happened in that big boy press conference. However, I think that what was going on the moments before the big boy press conference, I think are the most important. So George Clooney, actor George Clooney, took out an op-ed, and people have automatically assessed that Obama was probably behind it. One of the people who obviously picked up on this was obviously Fox News, Judge Janine Pirro on the 5, and of course Dana Perino commented. I had to kind of edit this piece together. It's going to be a little bit longer or a little bit lengthier, but I'm going to let it play all the way through. I'm going to come back on the other end and tell you what I think.
Coming for Joe Biden, Barack Obama is more than happy to let the bus run over his old pal Joe. The Hollywood actor reportedly reached out to Barack to give him a heads up on that scathing op-ed he wrote, calling on Joe Biden to drop out. Politico is reporting, quote, while Obama did not encourage or advise Clooney to say what he said, he also didn't object to it. The Clooney-Obama hit is clearly getting under Joe's skin. Check out the expression on Biden's face when he got asked about it. Joe and Mika are fuming over the possible Obama-Clooney coup.
This wasn't George Clooney.
What do you mean?
It just wasn't. Come on.
Who do you think it was? Matt Damon?
It was not Matt Damon.
Who do you think it was?
It wasn't Julia Roberts either.
Who do you think it was? You can say the name. You won't melt. It's not Voldemort. Are you saying you think Barack Obama put him up to this?
I think that Barack Obama has a lot of influence, and I think that there's a lot there.
All right, Dana, I'll start with you.
Okay.
Who do you think came first, Obama or Clooney?
I think maybe somebody in Obama's orbit encouraged George Clooney, or they are like probably on a group text, and they said, "Hey, would you mind doing this?" And hey, we better just run it up the food chain. Better run up by the boss. Mm-hmm. And then Obama, I think that was right. Like, let's just say Obama had nothing to do with it, and somebody came to you and said, "I'm going to put this out there." Does he want to be the one to say no? I mean, they're not even denying this report, so I assume that it's true. So yesterday, what happened?
I agree. I think that Obama gave the go-ahead is what happened, but I'll talk more about that at the end of the video. Like I said, you guys know me. I like to bring something up and then come back to it at the very end, but let's continue. Okay, now you guys obviously heard all that, and I had to kind of stitch it together in a certain way to kind of shorten it up so that way the biggest points would be highlighted. I'm going to go ahead and say right now this. Hollywood sure does love the presidency, the office of the presidency. I mean, they make movies about the office of the presidency. Some of these are obviously designed to be propaganda pieces, and some of them are obviously very good. There are some films out there that have come out recently, like The Front Runner, which was about Gary Hart and his scandal that kept him from, becoming the nominee in 1988 to face George Herbert Walker Bush. And of course, there's also movies like, say, The American President, directed by Rob Reiner, super lib, who decided to make a video highlighting The Office so that way it would maybe potentially make Bill Clinton look good back in the 1990s. The movie itself is actually pretty good, but also kind of a bit of a drag too in a lot of ways. And you get movies like, say, Dave, or other films involving the president, or some films that involve failed presidential campaigns that are designed to assert a certain agenda. Like, for example, the film Game Change, which is about the 2008 presidential or Republican primary or run of John McCain, and how it was they just shifted all the failures of that situation to Sarah Palin. Obviously, these films do, in fact, assert an agenda, and I believe that a film will be coming out probably sometime in 2026 about Joe Biden. Except it will be about the failed campaign, and they will be putting all the blame on him why it was they lost not only the presidency, but they overwhelmingly lost the Senate and the House too, which they obviously don't have control of. But of course, Republicans have a very slim majority. What I'm saying to you is that regardless what happens this year, there's probably going to be a certain narrative. And one of those old narratives has already come back. Top U.S. official says Russia is helping Trump out in the presidency. This right here sounds to me like they've already got the narrative set for 2025. So why in the world would they set the narrative? Because they know it's unrealistic to remove Joe for a factor of reasons. You see this polling information that comes out from Marist, not exactly a reputable polling official. And I'm going to say something really quick about polling. I'm going to go ahead and mention this first before I go any further. Polling is something that, quite frankly, finds a way to always be wrong, or be off, or be, let's just say, the end result for the Republican always ends up being a lot worse than what was originally expected. What I mean by that is that the Republican always tends to do better in the polling, or always tends to do better in the raw vote than the actual polling. The Real Clear Politics average has Trump up over Biden right now, for example, by 4 points. However, they always tend to underestimate Trump's numbers in the polls, so more than likely he'd probably win by 6 in the nationwide vote. That's pretty much every single battleground state and even some blue states. More than likely New Jersey, New Mexico, Minnesota, possibly even New York, based upon the article that recently came out. I don't think it'll happen. I think it'll remain blue. But still, the point is this right here. They typically tend to do better than the polling. Also, something else to go back to what I mentioned earlier. Trump has done better against these other candidates that they would want to replace Biden with up until this moment here. And it was a Marist poll. Marist, which is NPR, National Public Radio, never accurate firm, state-run media. Number 2, Quinnipiac. Number 3, Monmouth. Fox News also is very bad when it comes to polling. These right here typically tend to be the 4 worst polling groups. And let's also not forget Morning Consult, which is out of Bloomberg. Gallup used to have a good reputation, USA Today, Suffolk, but of course they don't have a solid reputation anymore. Typically when it comes to polling companies, the ones that tend to get it the most accurate are polling companies that do, guess what? Strictly polls, don't do many op-eds or anything. What I'm talking about is polling companies like, say, I don't know, Emerson, Democracy Institute, YouGov, The Economist, IBD, Investors Business Daily, TIPP poll, also Rasmussen Reports. They're the ones that you typically tend to trust when it comes to overall polling. Trafalgar is also another one. Richard Barris, the People's Pundit, is probably one of the best in the business, maybe the best in the business at breaking down polls and giving you all the information. That's who I go to, who I listen to when I want to see who's probably going to win or who's probably going to lose. I never go to the mainstream media polls because they are all designed to do what? Shape public opinion, and that's kind of sort of what's happening at this moment in time. However, the thing about shaping public opinion on this particular situation is, will it work? Everything you're seeing right now is like a movie. Everything you're seeing right now is like a script. Everything you're seeing right now will be placed in a Hollywood movie, probably directed by Rob Reiner in a couple of years. Rob Reiner also at the exact same time tried to spin the narrative that LBJ was some patron saint when obviously LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson, was one of the most destructive and worst presidents in American history. Trust me, there will be a movie about Obama in the next 10 years praising him as a patron saint when obviously we all know he's one of the most destructive presidents in American history, probably the most destructive president. And unlike Vlogging Like History's channel, who decided to respond and react to Ben Shapiro, a guy I'm not that big of a fan of, by the way, even though I do agree with on most of the issues, the fact that he decided to make a video saying that you can't say that Obama is one of the worst presidents of all time because it's recent history, I say bullshit to that. I could say that Joe Biden is the worst president in American history if I want to and provide the receipts. The exact same way progressives can say that Trump is. We all have a right to do that. So if I want to say Barack Obama is the worst president in American history, guess what? I could say Obama is the worst president in American history. Now, the rant portion is over with. Let's get to the actual facts. So what are the actual facts about this situation? Well, fact number 1. If Joe Biden was to drop out of the presidency, there's really only one person they can replace him with, and it's Kamala Harris, the current vice president. She would probably name someone like Pete Buttigieg, or Obama might get involved and say, you got to take Susan Rice. Pete Buttigieg, by the way, being a gay white man, no black person is going to want to vote for that, especially a black male. So that's going to kill the black vote right there. Even though Kamala Harris is half black or half Jamaican, half Indian, you probably think that the black vote would probably increase. I don't think that Trump's overall black support would lower. If anything, it might intensify given Kamala Harris's record of prosecutions out of the state of California. She's not popular. She more than likely would not win. There is something else, too, that could happen, though, involving her, which I'll probably talk about in another video, but I want to stick to the topic at hand. Something else, too, about that, and I mentioned this in a previous video, is that the campaign donations, which, by the way, Biden is being cut off from his donors because Clooney and Hollywood are saying, no, we're not going to vote for him. Also, the Disney heiress is saying, no, we're not going to vote for him either, which I don't think at the end of the day is going to matter because the donations will come back to him regardless. The thing that you got to understand is this here. You can't just bypass Harris. And to go on top of not just bypassing Harris, the other problem is this here. The campaign donations themselves can only go to her because she's directly linked with the campaign. If you bring in a Gavin Newsom who's preparing for 2028, if you bring in a Michelle Obama who probably, if she was to try to run, would probably 2028. And by the way, I don't think Michelle Obama stands a chance in hell at winning the presidency because she is not the same as Barack. They're polar opposites, the exact same way Hillary Clinton and Bill are polar opposites. I don't see anybody else getting the reins outside of Kamala if that is the case. But there will be a coup, but we'll talk more about that at the end. But let's leave it to Joe Scarborough from MSNBC to actually, for once, believe it or not, tell the truth.
That's not going to get him out of the race any faster. Anytime David Axelrod attacks him, David Axelrod ensures that Joe Biden will dig himself in another day.
I mean, that's basically what Obama's
anytime
saying.
the pod bros say something nasty about Joe Biden, which they have repeatedly said nasty things about Joe Biden before the debate, after the debate. Every time they do that, he digs in.
News' Brian Kilmeade said the exact same thing 2 weeks ago. Joe Biden more than likely is being told you have to drop out. He's probably being told by his campaign you stand no chance of winning, you got to go. The Biden campaign, by the way, has even enlisted people to go out there and poll to see exactly how well Harris does. I'm guessing that the Marist poll was the company they went to because, like I said, these are all mainstream media polls. If anything, though, the tightness of her being up by 2 points in that poll would just simply intensify the Trump vote because now the Trump voters know, hey, look, we don't have to win the popular vote to win the election. All we got to do is just win the Electoral College. Just go out there and vote your butt off regardless. Down by 2 points nationwide, that's an Electoral College victory for Republicans. And not just an Electoral College victory for Republicans, it's also every single Senate seat in a battleground state. Not to mention the red states, too, like, say, Montana, where John Tester will more than likely lose, where also at the exact same time West Virginia will flip back Republicans as far as the Senate seats go, because Joe Manchin is no longer there, which is one of the biggest reasons why it is these people don't want to donate any money with Biden on ticket because they think he'll pull the ticket down. In reality, Kamala Harris would also pull the ticket down, and so would Gavin Newsom, because nobody's going to vote for a governor from a crap hole like California. Especially given that the Midwest produces all of our cars and given the fact that Gavin Newsom is trying to ban gas-powered vehicles in the state of California. And let's also not forget about the homeless problem there. And let's also not forget that if you have people who moved from California to your state, chances are your rent has gone up because of them. I'm pretty sure that Gavin Newsom also stands absolutely no chance. Which brings me to the ladies at The View.
Replacing him. I want to hear if you think who would replace him. I think it's a little late. 50% of this country, or half of them, are in for Trump already. How are you going to convince these people that Sherrod Brown or John Tester can fill the position?
Well, I don't think you should leapfrog over the Vice President of the United States, who has been very has been in the White House side by side. She's been stumping for Joe. She went to the Alpha Kappa Alpha convention at Boulay. She was a superstar there. She spoke at the Essence Festival. She was a superstar there.
Kamala. We love her.
Well,
the question is, can she beat Trump?
Yes, she can. No Democratic candidate can win without the black vote. She has that vote. She has a lot of votes.
Wait, are you saying that a white guy in the Democratic Party is not going to get the black vote?
I think it would be very difficult if you leap over a black.
Sonny Hostin's reaction right here should tell you everything you need to know about that. I did a video on this the other day, which I'll link in the description box, about Stephen A. Smith. He brought up the same exact issue. And one of the delegates said the exact same thing. All of the delegates that Joe Biden has, all the ones who are loyal to him, especially those who are of a certain color, they are going to riot. They are going to raise 15 counts of hell if Kamala Harris is bypassed. And of course, that also means, guess what? The black vote itself goes down a lot. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself as an election analyst, how in the world we don't really need that vote to win, seeing it is that the North, or at least the more Democratic areas of the North, are actually more white than black. I've talked about this in previous videos. Outside the big cities, the North and Mason-Dixon line is pretty daggone white. How do you pull this off? Well, a state like Virginia suddenly flips. A state like Delaware, which is actually a lot closer than people realize, it suddenly flips. There's 16 electoral college votes gone, not to mention Georgia. And Trump's gains in Hispanics automatically give him, with a low turnout on the Democratic side, New Mexico, Arizona, and Nevada. He wouldn't even need the Midwest to win the election at that point in time. And he'd probably win those states overwhelmingly. So regardless of what the Democratic Party does at this moment in time, they're screwed. And still, to go on top of that, Joe would probably still lose every single state in the Midwest, every single battleground state, from Pennsylvania all the way to even Minnesota, which has not voted Republican since Reagan, 1980 to be exact. Just saying. Let me run this last part by you guys, this last part from Morning Joe. Because like I said before, for once, Joe Scarborough is actually telling the truth.
The pathway to Joe Biden graciously stepping aside does not go through the Obamas or the Clintons. It just doesn't. Again, as I said, because some people don't understand, I'm not talking about what ought to be. I'm talking about what is. And this is the reality. Jonathan O'Meara, Joe Biden is deeply resentful of his treatment under not only the Obama staff, but also the way he was pushed aside for Hillary Clinton. He's deeply resentful of those trying to shove him out of the way. He's always felt like an outsider, always felt like people have looked down upon him. And that's why I said at the top of the show, and people who know him best say, the only people that can talk to him are...
Never wanted him. In 2020, Obama had no options of anybody to back, so he therefore tried to pitch to the donors Elizabeth Warren, someone who was not going to win regardless how much you tried to fortify for her to win. I told somebody close to me down in Florida in 2019, when they said to me, we're not going to get anything unless they don't get Bernie Sanders, and my response was, Bernie Sanders stands absolutely no shot in hell at being the Democratic Party nominee nor the presidency. Same person, by the way, has come around recently. The point is this right here. Obama had no picks. The only person that was believable was Biden. And I said that. I said this entire race is going to turn once against South Carolina because the Obama factor, and of course being close to Obama being the vice president, Joe Biden is obviously the guy who's probably going to be the nominee, and he's more than likely going to be told by the woke crowd, you got to take a woman, and guess what? It's probably not going to be a white woman that you're going to take. It's probably going to be a black woman that you're going to be forced to take. Lo and behold, the Black Lives Matter riots of 2020 occur, and guess what? They're demanding Kamala Harris be the nominee. Even though Kamala Harris is not actually a black American, she's half Jamaican, half Indian. That goes to show you exactly how colorblind these people aren't. I'm just simply saying that that's exactly what the hell happened in this case. And Joe was the guy that they picked. Matter of fact, Obama didn't even endorse Joe until the Democratic National Convention. Remember the words. Remember this phrase. Don't underestimate Joe's ability to fuck things up. Just remember that. I don't want to leave something out before I end this video. And this right here is what I want to say before I get to the actual prediction. It's very possible that the real reason why, or the cover, not the real reason, but the cover that Obama used in 2016 or 2015 to tell Joe to stay home was the fact that Joe had just lost his son, Bo. By the way, Joe loves to confuse Bo and Hunter, and he loves to tell us that Bo died in Iraq when Bo did not die in Iraq. He died of brain cancer here in the United States. Of course, Hunter would eventually go and start banging Bo's wife, but still at the same time, though, I'm pretty sure you guys know the rest of the story. I don't think I have to fill you in on that. Joe obviously was dealing with some issues. He just lost his son. And, of course, he had his legacy as a senator, which, by the way, is a pretty god-awful legacy at that. The 1994 crime bill, that's Joe Biden. The 1991 crime bill, that's Joe Biden. The persecution of Clarence Thomas, that's Joe Biden. He's always been a racist idiot, always been a racist moron. And I don't feel sorry for him, not one daggone bit. If I think, I'm actually laughing at this. I'm loving every second of it. But here's the thing. And I need to keep my cool so that way the stitches don't just pop out. What's going to probably happen? Well, what's probably going to happen is this. They're going to attempt a coup. They're going to attempt to coup at the DNC to remove Joe. The first ballot will come in. The delegates, probably 66 of the 90% that are with Joe, are probably going to vote for Joe, and the other ones will probably vote for Harris. The super delegates is going to be a bit of a stretch. It's going to force another vote, of course, and it's probably going to come back to chaos. If they remove Joe, there's going to be screaming and hollering and raising hell, probably fights that we're already expected to have them anyways over the Palestine-Israel situation. But, of course, it's going to get a lot worse over the Kamala-Joe situation. So the Joe and the Ho situation is going to become a problem. And they're not going to want to replace the Ho with Gavin Newsom, the carbon copy of Patrick Bateman, who stands absolutely no chance of winning the presidency anyways. And more than likely would not want to sacrifice 2028. Now, it's possible he may try to gear up a run and then come back and say, well, I lost in 2024. It was an ill-fated run. You know, I learned from this, learned from that. Still, though, Gavin Newsom has no shot of becoming president. I mean, the state of California is covered in human feces. Just simply saying, and everybody knows it. But I want you guys to tell me what you think in the comment section. But before I leave this video, I need to remind you of something. It was back in 2022. I did a video here on this platform. It was about the whole Truth Commission thing, the lady Nita Jankowicz. And I said that these people screw up their own screw up. And I also said that not only they screw up their own screw up, but I also said that this little Truth Commission that these people come up with would fail on its face because these people are so incompetent. It fell on its face because these people were so incompetent. It only lasted about a week. What I'm saying to you is that these people are bumbling failures. You cannot be black-pilled by these people. You can be nothing but white-pilled by these people because they fail constantly. And that's what I'll leave you with. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe. Please share the video. Please sign off in the comment section. Please tell me what you think. I'll see you guys later.